This is not a test. Stay calm in an orderly fashion. Make your way to the lifeboats.
Mayday, the ship is sinking.
I am so excited. My guest today is kind of the powerhouse of the recovery community as far as locally, and definitely he's known nationally by many, many different recoveries. So I am so fortunate to have one of the co-founders of Wellness Inx, Mr. Joe Lowe. How you doing, sir?
All right, how are you?
I'm good. Good. So happy to have you, man. Really, really consider myself fortunate that you made time in your busy schedule. I know you got to hop on a plane back to Florida here in a few hours. So just like, let's get it in. So we'll just start right off the bat. Who are you, sir? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me here. I really feel privileged to do this. I thought about this, and I'm going, who wants to hear me? But you convinced me, my staff convinced me that, I'm one of those old guys, and before I go away, I better leave. Sow some new seeds.
Sure.
All right. So that's what I'm here to do. A little bit about myself. Well, Joe Lowe, and actually, I'm in recovery. I have been for going on 17 years now, almost 16 years. February 11, 2005.
My goodness. So you're one of those guys that we call the Don, the person that sits at the meeting that everybody's like, let's get close to that guy. He knows what he's doing.
No, that's why I'm at the meeting. I don't know it all. I carry away something new with every meeting, every client. I learn something new. Honest to gosh, that's the way it is with me. I don't think I'd actually be in sobriety this long if I didn't keep coming back.
Hey.
But I enjoy it so much. Look I met people like you, started a company. Anyway, a little bit about myself. Actually, way back when I tried for about 20 years to quit. I realized when I was 14, honest to God, when I was 14, I was an alcoholic. Because me and some buddies, we stole a case of booze in the back of a liquor delivery truck to a farmer's market in Citrus Heights, California. And it had to be Crown Royal, believe it or not.
Oh, goodness.
We stole the case of Crown Royal and we took it back to my buddy Kevin's house. And Kevin's dad was always on the sly. We used to do B&E with him.
Okay.
All right. So that's the kind of guy.
Layman's terms, breaking and entering
meat facilities, liquor store stuff. Took it over to Kevin's house. And there was 3 or 4 of us, and we split the fifth, and I really liked it. And we invited some girls over. Now, I was timid, and we invited some girls over, and one of them was a senior in high school, and Sharon was her name. She was gorgeous. She was just, TV gorgeous. And I was, I didn't have anything to give, so except to get her drunk, which worked, and we made out, and that was it. That was it. It changed me. The genie in the bottle. Wow, gave me that liquid courage, gave me that feeling. I could tackle the world with this stuff. And I didn't quit. So we had a good time. The next day, I rode my bicycle back to Kevin's house and knocked at the door, and I asked his dad for another bottle.
Wow.
He would not give it to me. And I knew at the age of 14 when I punched him that I was an alcoholic. And that's what he said too. He said, boy, you better slow down. You're going to have some troubles by the time you get old. He was right.
The prophecy fulfilled.
I knew then. I stole more booze than anybody. And actually, I had a business set up in high school because I was basically homeless at the age of 14. And I kept myself playing a rock and roll band and B&E and stealing booze, selling it. I mean, that's how when you're homeless at 14 and still want to go to school, that's what you had to do.
Sure.
I went to school. I did graduate because I needed, school was where the food was at. Because the girls were there. They would feed me. And that's where the fun and action was, because I get my gigs there, and they knew me from the rock and roll band. I was sort of popular.
What are you playing?
Guitar,
The
yeah,
guitar.
rock and roll, surf music. I'm dyed-in-the-wool California surf music guy.
You still playing it today?
Still play today, teaching some of the guys up in Michigan and down in Florida already, surf music. I don't intend on quitting anytime soon. It's a genre that a lot of people enjoy. It's fun stuff. Sun and the fun, the beach, the cars, the girls. It was fun music. It's not like some of today's music is really,
what is going on
just
here?
shoot yourself.
Yeah. Like, what is happening here? Sure.
Yeah, really, life can be fun. Get off the drugs, be happy.
Sure.
So anyway, I tried self-regulation, but I unfortunately got married to an enabler, which was convenient for both of us. It was easy for me, and it was easy for her. We stayed married for 44 years, and that's what it was like. The last 10 years of marriage got rough, and I had to self-regulate. Because job situation changed. My health was horrible. Her health was declining. And so I tried everything. I tried self-regulation, the changing, the boozes, tried different ways home, and nothing worked. I'd stay sober for a week, and then I'd party.
Right back at it.
Congratulate myself again. Then I tried I tried 12-step, and it wasn't for me, honestly, at that time. I wasn't going to take advice from anybody, especially a bunch of drunks.
Sure.
Then what happened next was I really started to get sick with my liver, and Kaiser Permanente. I was a Kaiser in California client. And they suggested that I go to a 12-week outpatient program because I had a job.
Now, Kaiser Permanente is like a big
just like Blue Cross, bigger than them. It's huge.
And it's primarily like
multi-state hospital system, and it's a membership program.
Like West Coast. I mean, they're massive.
Number one,
massive health.
When the feds talk, they always invite people like Blue Cross, the VA, and Kaiser Permanente to the table.
Okay.
And so I got hooked up with them. 12-week program did me good. I started to make some positive change in my life. And I saw the change it was making other people at the table. It wasn't 12-step. It was a peer facilitated group. No, not quite. It was 2 counselors. They facilitated the group.
Okay.
They had information, gave us readings and homework, come back, and we would discuss a lot of that and how it helped us.
And that was like big group counseling kind of thing?
Yeah, like 15, 20 people.
Okay.
Once a week in a room, all at a table. And they would facilitate the conversation about the homework and how we use it. And then we check in. It was great. I loved that part of it. And that kept me going for a long time. I still didn't go to weekly programs. Once that was over, it was over. But I managed to stay sober for 5 years.
Wow.
One thing I did not do is I did not connect with my old friends. It really hurt them.
People, places, things.
Guys from high school, guys from college, guys from military, just friends in the neighborhood. I actually had to tell them I can't associate with you anymore. They called me no fun. Too bad for you.
People, places, things. I mean, it works.
Yeah, it works.
Say what you will, but it works.
I tried a 6-week in-house program after that because I came back to a location where I shouldn't have went. I moved back to my old neighborhood and started up again. And I ended up in a recovery home that lasted 6 weeks. And the day out of that recovery home, I bought a pint on the way home. So that did not work.
So when is general time frame? When is this happening?
This is happening back in early 95 through 2005.
Okay.
That's a long time ago.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so it took about 10 years. Finally, I ran into Merit Peralta Institute. I finally made a decision that I wanted to quit. Not my boss wanted to quit. My wife, it wasn't that. I needed to because my health got so poor. My doctor quit me.
Oof.
That was the deciding factor when my doctor said, Joe, your liver is falling out your butt. You're not listening to anything I said for the last 10 years. Here's a couple of phone numbers. When you're brave enough, call them. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time seeing you as a client anymore.
Wow. That's tough.
And it was, don't you know who I am? I'll show you. And he said, yeah, you will.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you make it. See my nurse for the blood test every 6 months. We'll see how close to death you are. Exactly what he said. So I changed my mind. One of these days, I got really stinking drunk. I was trying to write a report on a table and I collapsed out of my chair onto the floor.
Mm.
And my wife knew that it wasn't the first time I blacked out. She just left me there all night. My kids could care less if I was on the floor. They were done with me. The world was done with me. My body wanted to get rid of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up the next day, opened up my wallet, had nothing to do because my 3-month calendar was empty.
Mm.
I started drinking on Thanksgiving. I didn't quit until February 11th, 2005.
Man.
That was a 3-month bender. Damn near killed me. So I got out one of those 2 phone numbers. One was AA, and I said, I ain't doing that again. And then the other phone number was Mayor Peralta. And he said, why don't you come in and talk? We pulled up to the building. My wife dropped me off and took off.
Hey, sometimes you need that divine serendipity. Somebody standing in the gap.
Yep. She says, you're here, you're staying here. I don't care what it is. Goodbye. Poof. So I was there. I stayed there for a couple of weeks and I really liked what they were doing. The meetings, we'd start out with morning meetings group. We all signed a 2-person room. Now, Mayor Peralta takes up 2 floors in Oakland, California, right on the border of Berkeley. And one of the founders is the doctor in the big book for those who are AA. He wrote Doctor, the story about the doctor.
Wow.
That's him.
Okay.
30, 50 years ago.
Sure.
Nice guy. He started Mayor Peralta and it's grown to this huge, it starts with, you go in from the ER directly to Mayor Peralta for detox. It covers detox all the way through lifetime outpatient.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's something to that. I mean, that's
Something
a
to
model.
that. Yeah. Your insurance pays for whatever your 30-day stay is. But after that, you get lifetime outpatient care, which is wonderful.
So I think this is a perfect time to ask you, especially with like your first experience was AA, and then your immediate inclination when you had that bender, you look at that AA card, you're like, nope, and then you went to this. And I know you as an AA guy later on, but it's one of those things of, this is the multiple pathway. This is like sometimes
That's right.
And then
I tried multiple pathways. The one that got to me was Mayor Peralta. But the big thing with Mayor Peralta was you had an AA meeting every day.
Oh, okay.
You had small group in the first you had you read the big book for the day. I mean, just for today, or they would have the other one, the AA one for the day, and you would read that as a group. We'd sign our chores to everybody. There must have been 24, 30 people there at a time. We all had our chores, went to our groups. In the afternoon, we had study and went to another group with counselors, small group. And then in the evening, we would have AA meetings. And then we have the big AA meeting at 9:00 before lights out at 10. But then we would have other meetings in between, peer facilitated meetings. And the reason they did that was some would be exclusive. Some would be just the older gentlemen, professional gentlemen. We would have the women themselves, and we would have age and gender groups. And that seemed to work. And we had 14 a week.
Wow.
And once I got out, I kept on going back to my group. And finally I just said, well, you're pretty good with people. Why don't we train you to be a facilitator? Would you mind to do that? Okay, I did that. I ended up doing 4 groups there a week.
Oh my goodness.
And then of course I joined AA right afterwards. And after I got out of inpatient. And I saw then they marched me to AA once a week. And that's how I got familiar. And I saw the guy with the big book in front of me, and we were a big book study at the central office in Oakland. And he had every line in his big book highlighted, the different color highlighter.
Has the tabs.
I just said, look at this guy over here. I'll never be like that. I'm on my third bid.
I was going to say, I was like, I think I've seen a few of them in your office that are worse than that.
They're
So
worse than that. Underlined. I love it. I just love it. I still do AA, and I'll never quit AA. But I also believe in multiple pathways. I think that's the way to do it. So basically, that's my recovery story. It wasn't pretty. It was painful at many times, but by gosh, I stuck with it, and I've never felt better. I've never looked better. This year, I lost 45 pounds.
yeah, you look a new man.
Yeah, different.
Look like you got a little bit of vinegar in your diet for sure.
Sure do. And started taking much better to myself because I want to now. I want to stay in recovery. I realize there's a place for people my age in recovery now. And that is, I could be very useful with all the people I grew up with, all the baby boomers, this huge blip in the population. Now this blip has moved to senior citizens and the beaches and the parties and all that. They're still out there, the alcoholics. Now we're doing so many new things. I have a harder time relating to the younger people now, music-wise, fashion-wise.
Sure.
Media-wise, I'm okay. But I realize I could be better use of the people who missed the opportunity to do what I have in recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's who I'm out to reach now. So you can see, we can go on forever with this, but yeah, like my sponsor's 95.
Yes. And he still walks.
I still talk to him all the time.
Miles. He walks miles and miles and miles.
Him and I having a contest. He said, I'm going to live as long as I can. And I said, I'm going to live to 116.
Yeah. So,
because if I don't set the goal, I'll never make it.
Exactly. Got to set that post in the ground. So so, thank you for sharing the early recovery. So I want to switch up a little bit to recovery now. So I know that how did you get from California to here? And then when you got here, what did you do? Because it was somewhat miraculous. It was wow.
Well, it was a God thing. It was actually a God thing. I was doing the Mayor Peralta thing, and but I was sitting in an AA meeting on a dark Friday night in the back of a church in San Lorenzo, California, and that was my Friday night group. I've been doing that group for 7 years, right? And in walks on a cold January night, this drenched woman who I thought was a local woman from the neighborhood needing help. That's just what she looked like. Ready to be wrung. She was wrung out. And when she walked in the door, I looked at her, and after the meeting, I got up and I walked over to her because no one said anything to her. And I says, see that bunch of ladies over there? And there was a bunch of women. I said, you get in the middle of that pack and don't you dare get out of it until you're sober. They'll take care of you. And I introduced her to everybody at the group. Find out that she had just landed that day from Michigan, and she was there on a science project at UC Berkeley doing research for Alcohol Research Group, a national funded research group for SAMHSA. She was a real PhD and she was a scientist. And I didn't find that out until a week later, till I gave her a ride home from the next Friday's meeting. I said, why are you all wet? And da-da-da. She said, I don't have a car. I walked to the meeting. And so I said, let me give you a ride home tonight. It's the middle of winter. So I gave her a ride home. And that's when she said, oh, I'm a scientist. And I said, yeah, sure. And she turned out to be a scientist. She found out where I was. And she said, you're Mayor Peralta. That's one of the multi-pathways, because you guys are so successful, because they were doing a research project about how long a person who has therapy lasts after they quit therapy. How soon after that do they drop off from sober going back to use again? And it wasn't that good a research results. And they had thousands and thousands of research projects to verify this, subjects to verify this. And then they went through counseling, then they went through inpatient, outpatient programs. The government wanted to know if the money that they had been spending was working. And what they discovered was no.
Big shocker.
Big shocker. So, but Mayor Peralta was very successful. I got to talk to the director of the program that Deborah introduced me to, Dr. Deb introduced me to. She said, would you mind coming to this meeting? So I went to this huge meeting. Guess who was there? The VA, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Mayor Peralta, and some of the other big ones nationally. But all the suits, the guys in the suits were there.
Yep.
And me and my Levi's.
People that don't know a lick about recovery.
And they sat and they put me in the first row, right where she was, the podium and all that. And I go, well, thanks. I feel pretty special. I was truly the interloper there.
Sure.
These guys are so sky high. And then she went through all the charts showing them where the failures were. And she said, we need to improve. We need to improve. So what happened was she said, would you mind standing up, sir? And she pointed to me. And I go, why? And she said, I need you to answer some questions. Would you mind? I said, okay. No rehearsal, no nothing. She said, asked me who I was, what my recovery background was. What do I do now? And I told her I'm doing AA, and same question you're asking me, and I'm doing Mayor Peralta 4 times a year. And now she says, and you're doing groups. Yeah, they trained me to do groups. And what kind of groups? I want to explain to what kind of groups. And she said, and how many groups do they have? And I said, well, they have 14 a week. And these are outpatient people coming back, 14 a week. And how long have they been doing this? I said, 25 years. She goes, that sounds like a pretty successful program, don't you think? And sir, how much do you get paid? I said, well, I'm a volunteer. And you could hear the air being let out in that room. It just went, oh no. Everybody back at me was starting to groan. And she shook her head, yes. She says, you see this? If you're not doing this in 5 years, the federal government is not going to pay you to do treatment anymore, because what you're doing, according to our own figures, we're failing.
Doesn't work.
She says, you got to start what these people are doing or get out of the business, because in 5 years, you won't have a job. Oh, really? There's an opportunity here. So anyway, I got Deb and I said, yeah, there's an opportunity. She had to come back to Michigan to finish the other project. She had to raise her sons, and they are still going through school. So I said, I'll come with you. And I had the opportunity to do it. My ex-wife died. what was I going to do? I was retired. So I said, let's go back to do a business. And on the way, of course, and after a year and a half of planning, we finally made it back here. We fell in love. We got married, very compatible that way. She was sober. I was. We made her a promise, and we've had a wonderful marriage since. True love. It was great. And we started with doing assessment and diagnosis for the courts. Knocked out a lot of lawyers' offices. Applied for a small grant, and I was continuing recovery coaching. I was going to AA, and I was still doing one-on-one recovery coaching because we got a small grant, doing case management. They gave us 360 clients our first month.
And how many people were working for you?
5.
That's what we call a nightmare scenario.
So she took a director, and I took the operations part. And I said, we're going to make this work. And we built the recovery coaching as a support for the therapists and the counselors. They needed that support. Driver's license, getting to appointments, doctors, doing all the chores.
Filling in the gap between meetings.
Because they're not getting paid to do it. Treatment people don't do this.
Sure.
But that had to be done. That's why, and we saw the hole, we filled the hole, and we kept on filling the holes as we saw them. And I started training individuals. My first one, well, one of them, of course, is Phil Pavona.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're
going to have him on probably next month or the following.
Yeah, we had Ken, Pastor Ken, who was a very well-known, come on board, and they were my first 3 recovery coaches. And we started going from there, of course, Alina and everybody else. And it grew, and now I don't know how many now you have that figure better than me, but I think I had about 500 or 600 by the time I turned over the recovery coach program training to them, got funded for that. First anybody ever got funded for it because it works.
And I think we're definitely over the 1,000 marker tipping point over
Isn't
the
that
last
amazing?
8-9 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if it's over
1,000
1,000
people taught to be recovery coaches and working in different facets
And
of the
we're-
community.
Yeah, we're known throughout, not only now throughout the state, but nationally we're known as well.
Yep.
Which is good. And with the help of social media and a few things that we've done differently. But we saw the need. We saw that there was a problem with the jails, the discharging of clients from the jails.
Yeah.
So I was able to do a little recovery coaching program in the jails once a week. And then at least to get our car out there and get connected. We saw a problem with discharging from the ER wards directly to the streets without any connection to a recovery community. And the overdose rate was horrible because they were doing that. So we tried to get into the hospital. We tried to get into any of the entry points, the police department. And that was years ago. We saw if we can stop the flood of people coming out of those, because they had them captured, but they were letting them go.
Yeah.
You can't do that with addicts.
Yeah.
You got to stay connected. You got to help them. Because really, we all know, and all you addicts out there who recovered or not, know that if someone would have showed you how to do this, you would have done it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I knew that because look at 10 years of me struggling with the resource until I did my own multiple pathway. I said, let's get the resources together. Someone come in the door and let's help them get to where they need to go. And that's what we did.
And fast forward, we're here now.
We're here now.
One of the most influential voices in the peer support program, especially in Michigan. We were known, like you said, nationally. So it's good stuff. So let's flip the script a little bit. So one of the questions that I've been asking everybody that's coming on here, at least at first, is how do you see the recovery community functioning right now? So we can go locally and then we can go nationally. What do we think?
Well, you're right at that juncture. January, let's go back a year ago.
Okay.
Today, you're right at that juncture. The whole recovery community was melding together with social media coming on, with faces and voices, and all these great programs, and C-CAR with their monthly and then weekly programs, and all these independents that came on and started doing talks like this, TED Talks. It was great. It was great. That was great for those. It was just the open door of a new pathway for those who are a little bit more educated, more fortunate to have a computer or to even have knowledge how to access this stuff. Because most of the addicts I knew and what I met 8 years ago and up through the ranks have a stolen cell phone.
Sure. Probably a couple of them.
Guys.
Probably a couple of them.
2 or 3 of them.
Sure.
They don't have a cell phone. They're borrowing their friends. They don't have a computer. If they had one, it was gone, sold long time ago.
Yep.
And they don't have the skills. So we are just on the cutting edge now of also reaching those in the rural community that didn't have but a meeting 25 miles away, but no gas for the car. So we started getting in touch with those. Recovery we're in the ER room, at least in 1 hospital, sometimes 2. Now we're in 3. And we were talking about the jail programs. Jail programs were expanding like crazy. Look what we're doing in the jail. I mean, we went from recovery coaching to now working with the drug courts and now doing not only their evaluations for the court and suggestions to the court. Now we're doing parenting classes because in one of my classes, we had guys saying, what I'm getting out. I said, what do you really need to get out? And what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what do you want to be when you're a free man? And a couple of guys said, I want to be a father.
There you go.
I said, parenting classes. And Most of the class went, yeah, I got kids who I got to apologize and make amends to, and I don't know how to be a good father. Right? Here's another class. There's parenting classes. We had seeking safety classes. Most of these guys are suffering from, and women are suffering from PTSD. Brutal.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes. Brutal. Their lives have been brutal, running on the streets and being trafficked. And one guy said, how many times you've been shot? He showed me 6 bullet
Oh
marks.
my goodness.
And I said, and that they're suffering from PTSD. So they need that kind of training too. And some are still on medication. What kind of medication? Let's start with acupuncture first in the hospital. I mean, in the jails. We're doing that, acupuncture in the jails. We're actually doing pain path, which is how to deal with pain other than drugs through your normal life, through exercise, drugs, maintenance of maintenance drugs, and food, diet, getting that also includes getting help for your thinking, to keep your self-efficacy going. That's now available in the jails. What happened was that was January, a year ago. Come February, most of that stopped.
Because of COVID-19.
The brakes came on. Everybody's attention slid over to the COVID because it affected everybody in the United States. Even though we were having as many people die every day as of overdose as COVID, because they weren't addicts, the attention was given to now normal people, straight people are dying. And so that's where the focus attention, and they pretty much shut down one-on-ones and groups. Thank God I had first day that we heard this, our staff, you included, we came together and what did we do? We sat down and said, social media is our next savior. Here are our next pathway. We have to get going. And here we are today.
Well, and I mean, in looking back at the timeline, so we had heard the suspicions that COVID-19 and lockdowns may be a thing. And then come February, the owners, Joe and Deb, they decided, you know what, owners of Wellness Inx, they said, you know what, we need to go online as soon as possible. And within a week, we took all of our programs online, which I know how we did it, many sleepless nights and a lot of toil and work, but
it was a forward thinking.
It's crazy. And then as soon as a week later, lockdowns hit and everybody was forced to shut down. So because the foresight of our fearless leaders, if you will, I mean, it was unbelievable what you guys accomplished in that amount of time.
Well, we had a lot of young help. Our staff is pretty savvy with this, and they're all in recovery.
Yes.
They saw the necessity of this. I saw the necessity of this when I started hiring younger people. I saw that they were more in tune, and you can't get the cell phones, iPads. I mean, their world now is electronic media. And I said, we need to do that. So just before we started, before this COVID thing, we had started our online classes. We had started actually having these seminars here at our office from CCAR and other sources available to our recovery coaches who are already trained. This was just another pathway to keep all our recovery coaches updated with the changes. And now we were fortunate enough to have some of this in place. It was raw, but it was in place. So we had a little bit edge on a lot of other people. And I wish the jails would have been more, they don't have the monies to put in screens yet, but now we see a need.
Yep. Just like that. I mean,
now we can go have this presented in the criminal justice system that, hey, even though we can't have one-on-ones, you can do on the screen.
Yes. And that's, I think, miracle of modern technology. So kind of on the opposite side of the coin of that question, what are the biggest problems you've seen in the recovery community as of lately?
Well, okay. Thank God lately. Okay. Thank God we did have entry into the ER, some. Only one or two of the hospitals, especially those who take things like Healthy Michigan, Medicaid, Medicare, they're more willing to work with us with Project Assert and Project the Expert. And for those who don't know what Project Assert is, it's the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services educational referral treatment program, where we actually go in and we ask 13 specific questions. And based on those specific questions, we can refer them then to a treatment service provider.
Yes, screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment.
That's
And it comes out of Boston University, and it is unbelievably successful. It's kind of surreal how successful that program actually is.
Yeah, we get 30% referral actually into recovery. And then with follow-up, we have many more follow-up, and still we have their contact now. And those who did or don't have a chance to actually separate themselves and get into a inpatient program, they're still doing an outpatient program. But they seem to be surviving longer until COVID hit. And what happened with COVID is that we're overwhelmed right now. Statewide, our numbers in some parts of the state of deaths by overdose, specifically fentanyl, have doubled since this time last year.
We're looking at like 2013 levels, right?
We need to get this program into more private pay hospitals.
Yes.
There's where the big holdup is private pay, and get funding for private pay. But what we have done, you're going to ask probably later, the opposite end of the coin. Then the start back of one-on-one. If you're sponsored, the one-on-one sponsorship still works. The COVID medicine's coming on board now. The shots are, in fact, I'm halfway through my shots now. And the groups, the small groups, we need, a lot of churches don't want to take the liability on the small groups, and a lot of places are really struggling. So more organizations like us who have gotten 501 split besides professional and contract services to 501 volunteer services, and got funded to do private meeting groups.
And there's no problem to do a shameless plug right now, but he's talking about Lifeboat Addiction Recovery Services, located in Lansing, Michigan at 913 West Holmes, Suite 285. We're doing hybrid meetings right now. We do have in-person meetings once a day. We do take COVID protocol very seriously, so please call ahead if you're planning on attending a meeting. But we also do hybrid meetings, which means that you can also visit us on Zoom. You can find us online and all that kind of good stuff.
This is very important. One thing I failed to say is that some of my most successful recoveries in this program were people when I thought I was going to have a recovery residence. So I went in partnership with another gentleman, and we opened up Butler Street, and it happened to be the coldest winter on record. We filled a 13-bed facility in a week.
Oh, I'm sure.
None of these guys had jobs, and it was impossible to get jobs without electricity and transportation. And so all we had was our table and our meetings. And I had this tiny little Subaru, and I would do multiple trips back and forth to different locations, pick up people to get them to the room. Those guys loved it. Twice a week to get out of their recovery house, even though we have a recovery house, transported into just a room with a coffee pot. And it wasn't AA, it was peer facilitated meetings, their meetings, their topic.
Multiple pathways.
And it worked. And some of my most successful recoveries 8 years later, love that. How did you get sober? Butler Street and their meetings. And that's how we started Lifeboat.
And Lifeboat has now grown into this entity now. I mean, that it's doing meetings, it's doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me and that little Subaru. And the reason we called it Lifeboat is because the shape of the table. It was 6 foot by 3 foot, and it looked like climbing into a lifeboat.
That's awesome.
And so that's what the guy said. They named it Lifeboat. Let's jump into the lifeboat tonight.
That's awesome. So let's move on to a different question. You know, I know that you're a person in long-term recovery or discovery, as you often put it, and I know that you also have children that are in recovery. So what advice would you give a parent struggling with an addicted child, or a loved one struggling with an addicted loved one?
To learn as much as you can, first of all, about the disease and yourself. And I would tell the parents it's not your fault.
Mm.
It is not the parent's fault. No parent wants this for their child. It happens. In our society, it's so easy to happen. We're up against large money to keep the drugs flowing through the United States. It's a multi-billion-dollar laundering service that we're competing against. We're out-financed, we're outgunned. It's not your fault. They need, the more they learn about this, and they need to learn then what's available for themselves. First of all, they can't help their children unless they help themselves. To help them understand what they're going through and what they should be able to change, maybe do their own gratitude list and see what resources are available for their kids, and then get connected.
Yeah.
That's what parents need to do. And they need to understand that their child, if addicted, especially to opiates, is not their child anymore. I mean, that's true.
You're arguing with that disease.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot. So they can do except to understand and try to learn as much about themselves, the disease, what their child is going through, and what is available for them. So many people came to me and said, I have $20,000 left in my bank account. We've tried everything, Joe. I will give you all 20,000 if you could help me with my child. I said, put your money in your pocket, come to class.
There you go. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, knowledge is power. And some of the people who are running some of the nicest and largest 501s in the state to help the parents have gone to those classes. And that's what it is to help them. And then even though they may not be successful, then there's groups to help them if their child dies, and then they can be trained and taught to help other parents who are heading in that direction. So don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Not on your child, but don't give up on yourself as a parent either.
Sure. That's, fantastic advice. So what area could the recovery community do better focusing on?
Oh, okay. Right now on focusing, SAMHSA's got distracted with COVID.
Sure.
They took away some of the allegiances they used to have with some of the bigger national 501s. They've split off. We need to get back into the mode of all connecting together. Everybody seemed to jump in their own lifeboat. Well, we all have to get back on board right now. We have to rebuild our provider networks, let them know we're out there, what's available, get on the phones, talk to each other, reassert yourself, those connections, and get the message out. Multiple pathways is still out there. That's what we have to focus on. I mean, I drove to just 50 miles on a major US highway this weekend and back. I saw 9 billboards with legalization of marijuana stops along the freeway. bars, advertisements. Where are we? Where's that funding for? Where's our word getting it out?
Where's our
Billboards?
recovery? Yeah.
Yeah, they're right at the fire station, right in back of our office. They have these community billboards, and once in a while they throw on good ones, and then sometimes bad ones. But we need to see multiple pathway recovery numbers to call. Addicted, call this. Remember that it was very strong. Remember every other commercial we used to hear on the radio 5 years ago was for a recovery.
Yes.
We don't hear that anymore. It got buried. People like Weed Maps came in and took over those billboards. For those who don't know what weed maps are, go to Weed Maps online. They are tracking your sons and your daughters, and they're tracking you. Every time you buy marijuana, every time you get an opiate prescription, they know who you are, and your child is getting information over their cell phones or on their emails about how to access. And Weed Maps is not even in the business. They're a computer program out of the Bay Area, California, who tracks addicts for dealers.
And they
Get real. They sponsored the legalization of marijuana in Michigan.
And they have most of a good portion, I believe, of Weed Maps, along with many others. They draw their money to Wall Street. A lot of people make a lot of money on just selling data and selling information.
It's big business. So watch who gets your data and where it goes.
Absolutely. So what should someone look for in a sponsor? As a person who has a sponsor that's you said 93 or 95?
He's 95.
95. What should someone look for in a sponsor?
Well, first of all, my first sponsor was, what did I need a sponsor for? Well, it wasn't until I crawled in on a rainy night myself, and I just got a Mayor Peralta, and they said, you have to get a sponsor, work the steps. Even multi-pathway people know that works just for the fellowship. And then, right. And so was a big old guy named Big Bill. He was a contractor, San Francisco. He tapped me on the shoulder, said, sounds like you need some help. I'd like to be your sponsor. I looked up at him and I was afraid to say no. So I said, sure. He says, okay. And as I got to know him, he had just completed the 12 steps.
Oh, okay.
He had about 9 months in. And he took me through the 12 step a week at his house on Sunday. After our Sunday AA meeting, we'd go to his house, have coffee, and work a step. And he took me through all the steps. He knew where all the meetings were. He took me to 7 different meetings, 1 a day for 7 days. So it's a man who had sobriety, who had a sponsor. All right.
Very important.
Whose sponsor had a sponsor. So I was like, the great grandchild of all these sponsors, and who knew the steps, doesn't have to learn the book. Sponsor's job is to take you through the 12 steps, through the first 186 pages. Take you through our 126 pages. Take you through those, and then help you find a sponsee and move on.
Sure.
That's a sponsor's job, not to be your best friend, not to be a lifetime buddy. Like, my sponsor does not work the 12 steps with me anymore because I found another sponsor after Jim. Carpenter Jim moved on, got another sponsee. I got a sponsee, and since then I have many, many, many more. And I've taught them the same thing.
He's one of those guys, like I said earlier, he's the Don of recovery, that he has just a litany of sponsees, and he has a bench of 30 deep looking for people who are ready to line up to be sponsees, but he just doesn't have too much time.
And be sponsors as well.
Yeah.
And then keep on doing that, and just keep on doing that. And that's how it's the network that's been around for 75 years. That's how it works. You teach one to help one, and he helps another, and then you get another one, and pretty soon you have thousands. And it's the steps that work. And you go to meetings, run the meetings, get involved, do the pancake breakfasts, and because Most men and women who get addicted are missing one thing: purpose. They don't have purpose and they don't have direction. I don't care if you're a street sweeper, empty garbage can, clean toilets at the casino. I don't care. If that's not your purpose in life, maybe helping to recoveries will. And it's okay to clean the toilet and be the street sweeper, or to be a national sales manager, or it doesn't matter who you are. It's what you do with what you got. And if helping others give you meaning and purpose, my job went from being a national sales manager to secondary. My purpose in life became helping others, and that was fulfilling. And that made me sleep, and that's what kept me sober. So I'm telling you, being a national sales manager will not keep me sober.
Sure. And I think, that's something that we teach in our class. Full disclosure, Joe Lowe is the man that taught me to be the recovery coach that I am today. And, eventually allowed me to become a core recovery coach trainer through Connecticut Community on Addiction Recovery. But we always teach that it comes down to, you're going to relapse because of trauma or because you don't have a purpose. That's it. It's nothing. It's no deep hidden secret. It's like, those are really the big two reasons. Every once in a while, there might be some other, but it's like, at the end of the day, if you don't have a reason to wake up in the morning, why are you doing it?
You got to want it.
Yes.
It's recovery at any cost. That's how we were trained. I was trained. It was recovery at any cost. Even in places like MPI. Said, Joe, you're going to go home to a bad situation. You ever thought of getting another home? And your house the liquor store is right outside your back gate. You think you should move?
Wow.
Recovery at any cost. If you love yourself and you want to be a better person, that's what the hard choices you're going to have to do. Just because your kids are addict doesn't mean you should keep on drinking.
Yeah.
Your kids are the addicts. Maybe they saw you drink. It's not your fault that they do too, because the whole world drinks.
Yeah, it is.
The whole culture is a quick fix, a culture right now. So no, that's all I can say about that.
Yeah. Well, so I'll ask you the loaded question. I always like asking people this one, which is, what is the best way to recover?
Oh, there's no one best way. I tell you what, the best way is the way that fits you and your ability. One, to reach your recovery. Two, that you're able to understand and have some guidance in. One way not to is do it alone.
So I can show you what not to do.
Yeah. So get help is the best way. And I don't care what kind of help it is, any help. Look what's available today. I went to many different types, but they also introduced me to acupuncture. Acupuncture for alcoholism. We do that in the Eaton County Jail. I don't know. Now we don't because of COVID, but that's what we were doing. Multiple pathways. Because it eased the tension in the nerve and it reduced the anxiety and the impulse to drink. Yeah, acupuncture behind the ear. So healthy diet. There's things in your diet. Alcohol contains sugar. Dopamine is a chemical rush in your brain. Maybe it's gambling, maybe it's sex. Maybe you need to work on that, as well as in your recovery is getting help in multiple pathways. So there is no one way. There is no one true way. The only way is to find out what's out there and keep on trying it. If it's Buddhism, I don't care if it's smart recovery, try it all. All of a sudden one will work.
Just keep waking up and keep going.
And you can't say this is the only way. Maybe it's the only way for you.
Yeah.
But I have multiple pathways that I have, and I enjoy them all. We have gentlemen who run multiple pathway recovery kayaking tours, camping tours of the Grand Canyon. I mean, fishing. I take men out of my fishing boat who forgot how to fish. To me, that's fishing therapy, right? I mean, whatever works. Whatever helps you stay sober.
And for those who are listening, I mean, that's coming from a guy that's a big AA guy. I mean, he's very well known in the AA community. Has many sponsees. I mean, he's known and he's done many speaker talks, but even he's saying like, make it work. Well, if you're not using, it's a good day. AA
is a good foundation because AA taught me to look inside myself. That's where it made me look at my shortcomings. It made me look like I'm not the power I thought I was. That first drink of Crown Royal made me think I had that power. It was just a power in a bottle.
Sure.
It was fake power, but it let me know that there was a higher power within me to overcome, but only if I could fix certain things about myself, not the rest of the world. That was great.
Yeah.
That's a great basis, is you can't fix anything unless you fix yourself first, just like a car. How can you fix a car that's broken middle of the highway until you open up the hood and take a look at it?
Figure it out. Yeah.
You're no different. So I use that analogy a lot in my teaching. You got to fix yourself first. But parents, you got to fix yourself first.
Absolutely. So we're coming to an end here, but I want to ask you one more question, which is, what is the one thing that you want to communicate to the recovery community? What's something that you yourself, Joe Lowe, what's your message?
What's my message? Well, there's a lot of good going on out there. And if you want to be part of it, hang around. I mean, we really need your help. Like I said, we're outnumbered, we're outfunded. But if you want a worthwhile life, if you want to feel really, truly needed and have purpose and meaning in your life, help somebody else. Do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. My God, when I was in recovery, I wanted someone to come up there and grab me by the ear and say, follow me. This worked for me. That's the only way it really works. We're the evidence. Don't be quiet. Just keep on, just be it known that recovery worked for you. There's no single one way that works. Try it all. Keep on trying it every chance you can. Keep on your reading. I mean, we have mobile treatment units now just for pregnant women. Get involved with that. We have rural treatment programs for people way out in the country. We have so many different things that are available now due to the multimedia and through some of the funding that's available. It's exciting. We're being beat to death by the news, by COVID. That has become the number one. We have to be the majority or still keeps upwelling. Recovery works, recovery works, recovery works. It's up to us, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you so much once again for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you got to be hopping on a flight here.
I do.
Fairly soon. I'm sure for those of you listening, you will certainly hear Joe's voice again. I think we're going to probably have to invite you back to teach us a little something for our Monday cast and things like that.
Boy, I got projects going. The VA's looking at us in Florida, recovery coaching classes. We got pain path going down there for a massive explosion of geriatrics and retiring.
Sure.
People my age, and even the baby boomers, pain path. I'm working on my generation. Guys, you stick with your generation because you speak the language.
There you go. Well, you heard it here, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a good one.